Hi, welcome to the third in this series of these Subtractor videos. So far we've looked at the oscillator sections and the filter sections. I highlighted how important it was that you kind of think of how this is routed, so your oscillators are going through to your filter. Your filter controls your tonal quality of the sound, and we looked at resonance as well and how resonance worked, and also about these different types of filters that you've got here. The next thing that your sound goes through, apart from the fact that I showed you the level at the end of the last video, okay, so that's the level control, but the next thing it goes to is the amp envelope. So in a very simple synthesizer, you'd have maybe an oscillator, a filter and an envelope, or maybe even an oscillator, a filter and just an output. What the amp envelope allows you to do is control what happens over time when you press the keys on the keyboard. So let's start with the attack. As you'll notice underneath it says ADSR. This means attack, decay, sustain and release. Attack is how long it takes once you've pressed the keys for the sound to actually start. So there, as I press the keys, it's instantaneous. Okay. And as I bring it up, you'll notice it takes longer and longer for the sound to start. Some of you may have kind of noticed that this is a little bit like a stringed instrument. When you bow a stringed instrument, it takes longer for the sound to actually start being produced for the instrument to resonate. If you blow a trumpet, for instance, then it's pretty much instantaneous, maybe a little bit of delay just while the air goes down the pipe, but most of the time it's a fairly instantaneous sound. So what about the decay? Well, decay is the time it takes for the... Let's go back to here, and there's a diagram in the reason manual. Decay is the time it takes for the attack level to drop to sustain level. So I'll try and demonstrate this. If we put this about halfway up, okay, you're going to hear... Okay, can you hear that? There's an instant drop off in volume. Okay, so you get the attack, and as soon as it hits the volume, it drops because the decay is quite low. If we take it up a bit... Okay, it's a bit longer decay. We can make a really short decay. Okay, so it sounds, or even less. Okay, so it's the initial sound. Okay, the sustain is what happens after that initial attack and decay sound. Okay, so if there's no sustain, you get a really short, choppy note. The more you raise the sustain, the longer the note goes for. Okay. But as soon as I take my finger off the key, it stops. Okay, so there's a long sustain on the note. At this point, it doesn't matter how long I hold the key for. With the sustain down really low, it means that it won't sustain the sound. The final one is the release. So this is what happens after I've taken my finger off the key. Now you can't see me doing this, but if I press down and take my finger off, you can hear a slight delay afterwards. If I take it right up, I've taken my finger off the keyboard now and it's still playing. I can carry on playing notes. Until you drop it down to the release level right back down again, the notes carry on. Okay, you'll notice that this isn't the only thing with an envelope on it. You've actually got two other envelopes. You've got one on the filter and also a mod envelope which can be sent to various different destinations. This filter links with this envelope here. If I take the filter frequency and drop it right down and play, you can see there's hardly any sound coming through. But what I can do is take over or what's happening here by using the amount button here. Okay, now, okay, the filter is opening and closing still over time like it was with the amp envelope, but it's actually doing it separately to this. Okay, so you can hear the sound starts straight away, but the filter takes quite a while to open. Okay, so the more I come down, the more the filter's open, so the brighter the sound from the start. Okay, and the same goes for the rest. I can make it drop out very quickly like that. Okay, so okay, attack, decay, sustain and release. There's also an invert button here which kind of turns this upside down. Again, we don't need to worry about it too much in this module, but it might be something you look at later on. It's just good to know what it does. When you come onto the mod envelope, this is much more radical in what it does. For instance, if I take the attack and decay right up and I put it to oscillator 1, it's going to make oscillator 1 go up in pitch. Okay, if I bring them down a bit, you hear it go up and come down. Okay, so it raises in pitch, comes down in pitch, and then sustains at pitch, depending on where I set that. Okay, obviously this can be sent to different destinations. I can send it to the second oscillator. I can invert it, so it goes the other way. I could send it to the mix between the two. Okay, so it's kind of mixing between them. Okay, and we could look at some of the other destinations later maybe, but you can understand that this does quite radical things to the sound. It's not quite the same as just brightening it up or when it starts and finishes. Okay, so that's your mod envelope section. The next thing that we're going to look at is the LFO in the following video. The LFO is a low frequency oscillator, and it's what modulates other parts of the sound. Okay, so that's in the next video.